We're learning more details about the Chinese nationals accused of smuggling a biopathogen into the U.S. The Department of Justice is accusing the couple of bringing over a toxic fungus, which the FBI calls a potential agro-terrorism weapon. The pathogen is known to cause billions of dollars in damage to crops, and if it is ingested, it can lead to liver damage and even birth defects in both livestock and people. CNN security correspondent Josh Campbell joining me now. So what more do we know, Josh, about this pathogen and the circumstances surrounding how it got here?
Yeah, Erica, when we talk about agroterrorism, what that refers to is someone who is intentionally putting some type of pathogen or biological agent into crops, into the U.S. food supply. It's important to note that is not what the Justice Department is charging here. They don't say that this couple was intending to use this material for some type of nefarious purpose, but they're taking it very seriously. And what we know about this pathogen, it's called Fusarium graminearum. We know from the Justice Department that has resulted in billions of dollars economic losses to crops. It can cause serious illness, vomiting, liver damage, reproductive defects in livestock, as well as in human beings. And what the Justice Department alleges is that this couple smuggled some of that material in. It was about a year ago that the boyfriend here was stopped at an airport in Michigan. His items were searched by customs officials who found inside of a crumpled up tissue some of this material. He was asked about it. He said, I don't know how it got there. Maybe someone else put it there. Fast forward now a year later, both of them have been criminally charged with smuggling, as well as with visa violations, as well as lying to federal investigators. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi came out with a statement. I'll read you part of that. She said that the Department of Justice has no higher mission than keeping the American people safe and protecting our nation from hostile foreign actors. This defendant, who clandestinely attempted to bring a destructive substance into the United States, will face years behind bars. Of course, that's too soon to see whether this is going to go to trial, whether they would be convicted, whether there's some type of plea. But again, something that the officials are taking very seriously. It's also worth pointing out, just from an intelligence and law enforcement standpoint, this doesn't really fit the mold of what we've seen in the past with the Chinese. The FBI has accused the Chinese government of trying to exfiltrate certain material from U.S. research labs and the like, essentially steal it for their own purposes. We don't really see the case of them bringing it into the U.S. And again, as I mentioned at the top, no indication right now from DOJ that this was terrorism. Nevertheless, we see these federal charges.
Yeah, wow, it is really something. Josh, appreciate it. Thank you. Boris?
With us now to discuss is former D.C. Chief of Homeland Security and Intelligence, Donnell Harvin. He's a bioterrorism expert for Interpol and Harvard School of Public Health. Donnell, thanks for being with us. How dangerous is this fungus? Does it rise to the level of a national security threat, potentially?
Certainly it does, and many individuals in the scientific community have said this can have catastrophic, near catastrophic effects on our agriculture. Understand that our agriculture is a large part of our GDP if it was released.
And how common is this kind of smuggling? How hard is it to detect?
Well, those are two different questions. This type of smuggling is actually rare, as Josh said in the lead-in. Most of the time we see these cases, it's researchers exfiltrating or trying to remove information or materials outside of the U.S. from their research. So in 2019, we had a Harvard researcher that was a Chinese national that smuggled 21 samples of a biological agent in his sock and tried to get out of Logan Airport. We've seen other instances where China has actually been involved in either doing cyber attacks to try to get this information, or having operatives that are sent here as students try to get this information outside of the country. So it's particularly rare in my research to show that individuals are actually bringing that here. But once again, if that gets out, that can have catastrophic effects, and you can see how they wouldn't want to do that type of research in their home country.
Now, Liu admitted that he wanted to clone these samples, and I wonder, from an investigative perspective, how do you discern intent here, whether the goal might have been agroterrorism or just research and potentially carelessness in smuggling it in?
And this is the hard part. Yeah, Boris, I'm an epidemiologist. I travel the country as well as the world, training customs and border and law enforcement officials and trying to determine what we call dual use technology. And dual use technology basically means that it could be used for good or evil. And so investigators and prosecutors have probably spent the last year trying to get to the heart of this individual's motives. It doesn't matter whether the person had good intentions. If there's some type of mistake or mishap or release, that can have catastrophic consequences.
Yeah, and given what you just described, the touring, so to speak, that you've done around the country, sort of imparting this knowledge on folks, are you confident in the system that's currently in place in the United States to find and thwart these potential biological pathogens?
Well, let's say this is a win for our Homeland Security professionals. Once again, this type of material should not be smuggled into any country. One of the things that we find it's quite difficult, and what I do and the work I do is working with Customs and Border officials to try to interdict this stuff at the border. Not just these materials, but the technology that's used, the laboratory equipment, the expertise that's used to study this stuff. The problem is that many of the research centers and a lot of our Homeland Security enterprises geared towards detecting what we call the insider threat. These are individuals that are actually working in these research labs, trying to exfiltrate on the behalf of the Chinese government information and technology. And so you really have to look both ways. You have to look at the individuals that are coming here to do research, as well as those who are trying to take research away from us and stealing intellectual property.
Donnell Harvin, appreciate the expertise. Thanks for joining us.